الحمد والنعمة لك والملك لا شريك لك لبيك اللهم لبيك لبيك لا شريك لك لبيك إن الحمد والنعمة لك والملك لا شريك لك لبيك اللهم لبيك لبيك لا شريك لك لبيك إن الحمد والنعمة لك والملك لا شريك لك لبيك اللهم لبيك لبيك لا شريك لك لبيك إن الحمد والنعمة لك والملك لا شريك لك لبيك اللهم.
Pilgrimage in Sudanese Prophetic Madih Poetry, Part 1. As a continuation of introducing the Sudanese Prophetic Madih in general, it is my great honor, dear audience, welcoming you in this series of 6 episodes targeting introducing the Sudanese Prophetic Madih poetry, which handle a specific genre of literature. I'm referring here to Sudanese Prophetic Madih literature and art. So 6 episodes will be targeting introducing the composition of poetry and prose about Hajj or pilgrimage, written and penned by Sudanese authors. So, as one of the 5 pillars of Islam, Hajj has enjoyed a rich and unique literary presence in Sudanese Sufi literature, with a vast body of work tracing back many years, deeply rooted in history. This documentation can be traced to the early introduction of Islam and Sufism into Sudan during the era of Funj Sultanate from 1504 to 1821, and through different subsequent historical periods. The longing of Sudanese people for Hajj or pilgrimage has been expressed through distinctive poetic and prose compositions, with poetry being the more dominant and prolific form. Indeed, the sheer volume of this poetic output makes it impossible to present it all in just 1 or 6 episodes. Therefore, my selection includes poetic works by Sudanese poets of praise poetry and Sufi traditions, representing different periods of time and literary schools. The selected examples featured in these episodes are intended only as a glimpse into this vast and exceptional literary heritage of the country. In terms of literary prose that recounts the pilgrimage journey and rituals written by a Sudanese author, it is rare. It appears that الدر الثمينة في أخبار مكة والمدينة, the precious pearls in the accounts of Makkah and Medina by Ustad al-Sha'b Mahmoud Sheikh Nuruddin, is the only non-Sudanese work in this genre. Accordingly, I have dedicated an episode to narrate the performance of this Islamic ritual rendered in prose by Sheikh Abdul Mahmoud Sheikh Nuruddin over a century ago. So what I would like to present in these 6 episodes, by the way, five episodes will go on handling the introduction and presentation of the Sudanese prophetic Madih poetry written by Sudanese poets. And in this regard, I would like to say that, and as I have stated earlier in our previous episodes, that the poetic production of the Sudanese poets is so the largest one in comparison or in comparing with other form of writing that is mainly prose. So in our discussion to introduce Sudanese prophetic Madih poetry within the genre of pilgrimage, I would like to say that there is only one prose writing that describing and handling this sacred spiritual journey. I'm referring here to Hajj. And this work, by the way, has been penned by Sha'b al-Mahmoud Sheikh Nur al-Daim. It is the only prose writing that is handling the journey of Hajj, starting from his own village in Tabat in central Sudan till visiting the holy cities and back again to his own village. So this is the only achievement written by a Sudanese in terms of prose contribution. Prophetic praise is considered one of the cornerstones of Islamic culture, especially since Islam in Sudan has a popular Sufi character closely tied to Sudanese identity. Sudanese prophetic Madih poetry abounds with poems in which pilgrimage is the central theme, portraying aspects of social life across different eras, as well as elements of Sudanese customs and rituals related to the pilgrimage and its journey. Sufi poetry often gives the Hajj pilgrimage as a metaphorical journey. So Sufi poetry often views the Hajj or pilgrimage as a metaphorical journey towards spiritual purification and unity with God, rather than just a physical pilgrimage. Sufis use the Hajj rituals to reflect on themes of inner transformation, love for Allah, longing for the Prophet, and the Sufi disciples' path towards the divine. Sufis interpret the Hajj as a symbolic journey from the world of multiplicity to the oneness of God, mirroring the Sufis' spiritual progression and evolution. Hajj for Sufis is not just an obligation, but an expression of love for Allah, with deeper meanings embedded in the rituals. The Hajj rituals are seen as a means to cleanse the soul and cultivate a connection with the divine, facilitating the Sufi's path towards spiritual enlightenment. Sufis emphasize the strengthening and preservation of spiritual bonds and networks formed during the Hajj, both with other pilgrims and with the divine. Prophetic art in Sudan has deep historical roots, particularly in relation to the description of Hajj. So in the relation to the description of Hajj, ritual and preparation for the pilgrimage, Sudanese prophetic literatures have deep historical roots. The longing for the sacred lands of Mecca and Medina would precede the actual preparations. Hajj was once undertaken on foot and on the backs of the camels, which made reaching those holy destinations an emotional and spiritual experience we can scarcely imagine today in the era of airplanes and cars. The experience of Hajj goes far beyond the concept of a conventional pilgrimage. The memory of that period over the centuries is filled with the diverse scenes and details that make it one of the most intimate and unique of religious journeys. As has been portrayed by Sudanese Prophetic Madih writers, this sacred journey took different stages. So just here we have to say that the spiritual journey, the sacred journey of visiting the holy cities, Mecca and Medina, in other words, the performance of Hajj, according to Sudanese Prophetic Madih writers, takes 4 stages. The first stage is longing for the Hijaz. And by the way, longing for the Hijaz is the first motive. And it is the first step through which the pilgrims thinking of visiting that places. The second stage, the preparation before the journey. And the third stage, the journey itself. And then the final and the last stage in Hajj performance is the return from the holy cities. So just in more details, I will handle these stages one after another. Longing for the Hijaz. As the Hajj season approaches each year, feelings of love and longing grow stronger in the hearts of Muslims for the sacred lands, Mecca and Medina. These longing and yearnings have found expression in the poems of Sudanese popular praise poets. And here just I would like the audience sharing you some notes in form of an article coverage. They have been carried out by the researcher Imad Muhammad Babikir, an article that have been published in Jazeera.net. So Imad, by the way, in this article, which is a study, by the way, has been consulted and has been interviewed some experts in the field. So just sharing you parts of their contribution handling this important topic, the visitation to the holy cities. So among those who participated and shared his views on the sacred journey of Sudanese poets to Hijaz is the researcher and the critic Al-Wasiq Yunus. So Al-Wasiq Yunus, a Sudanese critic and researcher, elaborates in his statement to Jazeera.net article saying, I'm concerning with showing the idea that just I'm presenting Sudanese prophetic Madih poets writing on Hajj, and in this particular context, just I'm presenting their ideas and concepts and understanding and views towards longing for the Hijaz. So according to the critics, Al-Wasiq, many poems in the corpus of popular praise poetry begin with words like my longing, washogi. So my longing and other such direct expressions showing the yearning and the longing of the poet to the two holy cities. To quote some examples of Sudanese writers, I mean here, Sudanese prophetic Madih poets, we may come to take this example. وشوقي على زيارة بقي عثمان، شوقي بعلاومة وقبة مركان. Another poet. الشغلة بالأيتام في العالية البناها رخام. Another example. شوقك شواني طه العفيت الجاني. So such phrases that expressing the longing, by the way, so abundant and with a great presence in the composition of Sudanese Prophetic Madih poet or poetry. From another hand, the poet and critic Abu Aql Idris also has his own views in the very same article to aljazeera.net about this particular context. So, according to him, there are many things that stir longing, and the longing for the sacred lands is particularly awakened by the seasons of devotion, most importantly the Hajj. Poets of prophetic praise often associate this longing with certain imagery, such as lightning, following the tradition of classical poets like the Bedouin who said, رأيت بروغا داعيات إلى الهوى. And some other you find them also said, الليلة برق الروض لاح. Or you may find that longing in the expression such as الليلة البريق لاح لي من السوح. So to them, to Sufis, the mere mentioning of lightning, that is the longing itself, because the nearness, the intimacy, the presence, the feeling with presence with the Prophet ﷺ is there in their expression when they mentioned the lightning. Thus you will find them saying things like, tonight the lightning of Rauda flashed, or tonight the flash came to me. The flash, by the way, here, the lightning itself, came to me from the plains, and there are many other similar expressions. But what most stirs the longing of lovers is the departure of the pilgrimage caravans. As is well known, Sudan was historically a pathway for pilgrims from West Africa. The cities would stir with the movement of their own pilgrims and those passing through. Thus, in their poems, Sudanese Prophetic Madih poetry, one often finds mention of Borno, Kanem, and other major cities in West Africa. The pen jurist Saleh Al-Amin, a notable Sudanese Prophetic Madih writer, passed away in the year 1888, expresses his sorrow and sadness upon seeing the pilgrims of Dar Saleh in eastern Chad. Listen to him. الناس من صليح جات للمدينة كوس وانا اقرب مكان يا ناس اموت بالشوق. For those longing for the sacred lands and desiring to perform Hajj to the holy cities, there are two possible outcomes. Either their pilgrimage is facilitated or they are unable to succeed in their journey. In the latter case, sorrow and heart pain take hold, feelings that often find expression in poetry. One such poem frequently recited by Sudanese devotees is that famous one by Sheikh Ahmad Abu Kasawi, 1841-1884, mainly his masterpiece and wide theme Oud, قالوا الحديد قطع طالب نور البقع. قلبي زاد وجع حماني القيد منع. So practically here Sheikh Ahmad Abu Kasawi expressed his regret, his sorrow, never accompanied the caravan to the holy cities. And what prevented him to accompany the caravan in that spiritual journey is his sins and the shackles of his fault. So he went on showing his regret, expressing the reason behind what made him to not to accompany the caravan. قالوا الحديد قطع طالب النور البقع قلبي زاد وجع حماني القيد منع. So what has prevented him is the shackles. In other words, his sins and faults and wrongdoings. But the restriction and the prevention, or the restrictions that prevented Abu Kasawi accompanying the caravan of the pilgrimage, did not control nor restrain his imagination. So you find him, he imagines himself at the port of Sawakin in the company of the caravan to the holy cities. And there in Port Sawakin, the crew of the ship welcomed them and said, welcome the eulogist of the master. رئيس السفينة قال أهلا مدة حسيت. And then the journey went on and arrived and has its arrival in Jeddah. And in Jeddah, Abu Kasawi in the company of the caravan said, في جدة خروجنا ما فينا مريض. In Jeddah, at our departure, at our arrival, departure from the ship, none of us was ill. So as you see here, Abu Kasawi is not far away from that one, the noted Bur'i of Yemen, who himself expressed his longing pointing to his own sin, which prevented him not to be in the presence of the pilgrims on the day of Mina. So the critic continues speaking about the deprivation and its psychological impact. And here, by the way, as I told, there is a connection between the poem of أحمد أبو كساوي قالوا الحديد قطع طالب نور البقع and that one of الشيخ عبد الرحيم البرعي of Yemen يا راحلين إلى منى بغيابي, in which the poet journey with his soul and imagine the ritual and the state of the pilgrim. So two examples, similar meaning, stating the two poets stating what's behind their delay not to accompany the caravan of the pilgrims. Together they agreed that the sins and the shackles of their sins and wrongdoings were there behind their delay not to be in the company of the Hajj pilgrimage caravan.
لبيك اللهم
Dear audience, I would like reminding you that I'm presenting the pilgrimage in Sudanese Prophetic Madih Poetry Part 1. So we continue, and then here we have arrived to the second stage of the journey, the sacred journey to Hajj. And here we have the stage before the journey. With the passage of time and the ease brought by modern means of transport, certain aspects related to preparation and the journey itself have changed. So, according to the critic Abu Aql Idris, praise poetry documents every aspect of the Hajj, even from its earliest stages, as is well known. It all begins with the repayment of debts and the return of rights to their owners. So the critic here would like to say that the journey, or before the starting of the journey, the pilgrims, by the way, first of all, before thinking of going with the caravan, he think carefully and what duty that he first initially he start doing is just to repay the debt taken from other individuals. So this is the first stage before traveling. And here the critic, by the way, has taken an example from the poet Hayati when he said, طلوبنا نوفي ديوننا نوفي ديوننا نوفي طلوبنا نوفي ديوننا نوفي طلوبنا. We repay our debts and our obligations. Then comes the preparation of provisions. So first of all, the pilgrims, as I have stated, is so very concerned of repaying the debts that has taken from others. And the second stage in this very second stage of the journey of Hajj is the preparation of provisions, the provisions. So provisions which was essential due to the lengthy duration of the journey. So in the past time, as we are going to see the means of transportation, we find that the journey took some time. The journey takes 1 year. Some others have taken more than 6 months, spending these months from their homes, starting the journey from their home up to the holy cities and back again, more than 6 months. So that is why when Hajj al-Mahi wishes for his camels, he does not forget the water and provisions. With his Zamzam water and his neatly packed provisions. بزمزميته والزاد محجب. Research of praise poetry and head of the Union of Sudanese eulogists and chanters, Sheikh Amir Abu Groon, told Al Jazeera and it said, the provisions carried by the pilgrim were not prepared solely by his family, but involved contributions from most of the village households, each offering what they could. One would give dates, another dried meat, another flour, and so on. The provisions of a traveler differ from those of someone staying at home. They must be suitable for long durations. The folklore researcher Farah Isa says, provisions vary. Provisions vary by region. This is a broad topic. But these foods share the trait of being non-perishable for months. Among the most important provisions Sudanese people prepare are dates and abre. So abre is an Arabic Sudanese word. It denotes thin sheets made from fermented sorghum dough, seasoned and prepared through various stages, soaked to make a drink or eaten even. This was referenced by Hajj al-Mahi in his poem Samha al-Wusufu. Lovely is his description, where he wished for 50 camels loaded with abre and roasted coffee beans. 50 حمول أبري وقلية. The relationship between praise poetry and proficiency isn't limited to simply mentioning food as part of the preparation process. As Sheikh Amir explains, friends and family bring provisions to the pilgrim's house, accompanied by chanting and celebratory praise poems, congratulating the pilgrim and inspiring longing for the Hajj. These poems often mention the dad proficiency. One such example of Sheikh Amir Abu Grun mentioned is a poem by Sheikh Muhammad al-Sabunabi, 1899-1984, in which he urges people to prepare their provisions ahead of the journey. هيا يا ذميل عبي لينا زاد، أنا طالق وعادي وغرامي زاد. The journey. Pilgrims usually set off from their villages and towns in groups, appointing a leader referred to as an Amir to guide them. Sometimes another is deputized to assist him, and responsibilities are divided between them, covering matters such as supervision of provisions, finances, and movement, among other duties. On this, Sheikh Amir states that appointing an Amir is a prophetic tradition, and it has become a customary practice in Sudanese pilgrimage journey. Sheikh Hayati described it as follows: والدتاي لازم حالتنا في النيبان والوالتنا. Before the departure of the group, I mean here the pilgrimage caravan, animals are slaughtered in celebration of what is generally known as Al-Karama. It is a feast, by the way, a gestures of spiritual blessing, or Al-Qaiduma, the send-off feast. And by the way, before traveling to Hijaz, animals used to be slaughtered in large quantities, and visitors, guests, lovers, and the whole of the surrounding villages and the relatives of the pilgrims used to be invited to share the meals. That is before traveling. Not only sharing, eating and drinking, but also attending prophetic praise Madih poets. And here, the most celebrated eulogists used to be part of the festival. Furthermore, on their coming back from the holy cities, also animals used to be slaughtered. And as has been experienced before traveling, furthermore, animals slaughters, villagers, relatives also used to be invited to share the celebration. And the celebration with eating, drinking, also furthermore accompanied with dhikr and audition to prophetic Madih poetry. So the poems went on describing the journey, continue the description of the journey until the pilgrims and the caravan reached the Hijaz. Starting from Jeddah to Sudanese, going to Mecca, and finally to Medina, in a thorough more details to the rituals that be formed by the Hajj or by the pilgrims. The return. Dear audience, I would like to remind you that I'm presenting pilgrimage in Sudanese Prophetic Madih poetry, and just this is part 1. Now, dear audience, we have reached to the final stage of Hajj performance according to Sudanese Prophetic Madih writers and poets, the return. Following the completion of the Hajj performance, the performance of Hajj rituals, completing the Hajj, such experience is colored with sorrow at the passing of these blessed days to the pilgrims. Some pilgrims visit Medina after the Hajj, and their joy is renewed by the visit to the chosen one, peace and blessing be upon him. So, before returning to the country, one of the most things that the Sudanese pilgrims is so very concerned of doing is the visitation of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam in Medina Munawwara. So such experience, by the way, colored the mood of the pilgrims. You find them always in a state of longing and yearning, tears running down whenever the mere mentioning of Medina be heard. So it is painful and joyful experience at the same time. So before the return and in their visitation to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam Medina Munawwara, some Sudanese poets such as Hajj al-Mahi. Hajj al-Mahi expressed his longing to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, expressing his longing to al-Baqi', to Quba, and to the whole holy sites in al-Madinah al-Munawwara. And he expressed his desire to be there, to be buried in al-Baqi'. And if the case is not come to be realized, he then returned to his homeland so happy. To quote him, "Imit ni'ma when jit haniya." It is a customary for the pilgrim to return with gifts to distribute among his visitors, which are often prayer beads, skull caps, and Quranic books. But the most eagerly awaited gift among the well-wishers is Zamzam water. The pilgrim often finds that the walls of his home have been freshly painted, with phrases written on either side of the doorway, such as حجا مبرورا وذنبا مغفورا وتجارة لن تبور. It reads as, "May your pilgrimage be accepted, your efforts appreciated, and your trade never fail." Such was in the past time, and it is a custom that painted on the doorway of the pilgrims. It is a sign indicate that the man or the woman inside the home has performed Hajj. But these customs have started to diminish. People gather for another feast, and here just the pilgrims back from the holy cities. So another feast with the name of As-Salama, that is the safety return, where sheep are often gifted to the pilgrim by his kins and loved ones. For more information in this particular area, I am referring you to Imad Muhammad Babikir article published in Al-Jazeera.net entitled Hajj in Sudanese Press Poetry, How Poems Told of Longing and Documented the Journey, 7 of July 2022. The means of transportation for the Hajj journey. The audience just are presenting the pilgrimage in Sudanese Prophetic Madih poetry, part 1. And here we have another important topic within this episode, and that is the means of traveling to Hijaz. The means of reaching the Hijaz pilgrimage or the Hajj have varied across different eras. In the past, the journey began with camels. In our present day, it is the aeroplanes. So if we back to see how Sudanese prophetic Madih poets express furthermore for their wishes of having the best of camels that taken them to that place in so swift and quick movement. Let us come to quote from the poet Wat Tamim, speaking, reflecting his desire of having the best of camels. نبي الله المتبع شمس الكواكب من قام له فوق هجين حامل وراكبة. So then he went further describing what sort of a camel that he is wishing to have. قد يقوم يا صاحب أجيب ناقة طيبة حد بلق قاربة وقصيرة المحقبة وسنام عن صبا الكور مناسبة شيد لي وعقبة فلعلي أركبة بالشارع أطربة وتزح وتقربة كسرعة الظبة لضريح المتبة تجذبني المغربة. See how Tamim has his own desire and wish to have that type, that perfect type of a she camel, taking him quickly because no time for him to delay. So he wished to have such traits, such descriptions of a she camel that he expressed in these lines. Over time, the means have changed. Before going further, just what I would like to say in this particular context, that the means of transportation have changed across the time. For example, Sudanese poets starting the speech with having a camel, and then they went on to the steamer or the ship, al-Bakhira or al-Safina, and then they went to the speech of having a pickup truck, al-Buksi, and then they went on to have the aeroplane. So al-Buxa and the aeroplane is so modern means of transportation, and they have been expressed so beautifully in two poems written by the renowned Sudanese Prophetic Madih poet Sheikh Abdul Rahim Sheikh Muhammad Waqi Allah al-Burai, as we are going to have in our discussion of presenting Sudanese Prophetic Madih Hajj within the Sudanese Prophetic Madih poetry. So over time this means developed from camels to ships, as beautifully expressed by Sheikh Hayati in his famous poem يا عشاق هيا قوم بينا في النايرة نذر محبوبنا, and then further develop in our modern times to include the boxy or pickup truck vehicle, and finally to airplanes. This progression was beautifully captured by Sheikh Abdul Rahim al-Burai in his renowned and widely celebrated poem الطائرة السودانية لرسولنا قوم بيا, the Sudanese plane to our messenger, take us along. Back into the speech about camels, we find that Sheikh Ahmad Abu Kasawi wishes for 2,000 camel, a generous poet. He is not only in need of one camel, rather he beseeching God to have 2,000 camels. And in these 2,000 camels, he want in his company to the caravan or to the Hajj performance, the student of the masjid, the lovers of the poet, and some other relatives and non-relatives alike. So he wishes 2,000 camels that make up a caravan to the holy cities. So comparing the transportation from the past to the present day, in fact, there is so far difference. And what I would like to say is that the hard and the difficulties that faced by the pilgrims in the past time, by the way, intense is the reflection of their longing to the holy cities, mainly to the visitation of the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessing be upon him. So we find that everything now is so easy, there is no any problem, by the way, in terms of traveling. So the journeys always come to be shaped with comfort and easiness in our present time. So at the end of this episode, just I would like to say that what I have done in this episode, just a presentation to a pilgrimage in Sudanese Prophetic Madih poet, and this is part 1. And as I have told, more of the 5 episodes will be presented, having different themes. That is, 4 of the episode will be targeting the presentation of Sudanese Prophetic Madih writers, in addition to another episode that will be devoted to handle having the experience of prose writing, an expression of what is known as the Hijazian journey, الرحلة الحجازية, and it is we have only one achievement in this regard, and that is الدرة الثمينة في أخبار مكة والمدينة, that journey written by شعب المحمود الشيخ نور الداعم. So in the very same episode that I have presented, we have seen together and we experience how the journey to the holy cities being expressed by Sudanese poets, and we have stated that the journey, by the way, taken 5 stages. That is the pre-stage, which in fact is the longing of the poet himself, as if it is a map that written by the Sudanese poet, prophetic poet, is starting from the stage of longing, going to the preparation of the journey before engaging in the journey itself with the caravan, and then the journey itself. And the journey itself indicates the arrival of the pilgrims to the holy cities, starting from Jeddah, going to Mecca, finishing the rituals of the Hajj performance, and then the visitation of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and visiting the landmarks and the most well-known prophetic sites in Medina al-Munawwara, Bagia, Guba, and some other places. So by the visitation to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Medina Munawwara, then the stage of returning back to the country is the final stage, in which the pilgrims is welcomed by his relative, animals slaughters, relatives and non-relatives, villagers gather together to celebrate his safety arrival from Hajj. And if you have taken the previous time, we find that the journey is so difficult, but at the same time it's so enjoyable, mainly on the return back of the pilgrims. And to some other lucky one, they wishes to be buried in Al-Baqi' or in Mecca, a gestures of good ending. And with coming back, as I have stated, animal slaughters, relatives gathered, celebrations in form of dhikr, in forms of prophetic madih, performance used to be done in that celebration. So this is just the first episode. We have further other episodes covering the Hajj or pilgrimage according to Sudanese Prophetic Madih writers. And by this I come to the end of the episode. See you in another episode, and that is part 2. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.